It's really a privilege, and I think that your work brings a very needed perspective and a very helpful one. So our audience will be extremely interested, I think, in your perspective on women, on daily life, on religion, on villages as opposed to urban life, and so forth. So we're looking forward to jumping into all those topics. But maybe first, just to start, you can tell us a little bit about the sources that you use and how you approach them. You've written that on the one hand, there's an enormous amount of material for topics like yours, let's say women in ancient Israel and Judah. A lot of archaeological evidence, a lot of textological evidence. But on the other hand, it's very complex material, and the sources have some weaknesses and biases. So there are very significant challenges as well. So maybe just set the picture for us, if you would. Let us know what kind of sources we're talking about and how you approach them in your work.
Sure, thank you. And first, thank you for having me here. This is exciting to do.
Thank you.
I'm really glad to be here. And I'm really glad to bring my subjects out to your community, the people who work with you on in this project. It seems like a great thing to be able to do. So thanks. I got into this. I've always been really passionate and fascinated by the idea of Israelite religion, and in particular, Israelite religion in its Near Eastern context. That's where I began my graduate studies. That's what I focused on for such a long time. And in doing that, because as you noted, I am an archaeologist, I use the Bible. Of course, the Bible is our main source, written source for knowing about Israelite religion, but there is a lot of archaeological evidence as well. And so I worked with that for quite a long time, but gradually I became interested, for all kinds of reasons, in what roles women played in society and what roles women played in terms of religion. So the Bible itself is a curated document, meaning it came through many hands. It's not something novel. I sat down, I wrote it, done. It's a document that, we can call it a document that was put together over a millennium. It has many, many different people involved in it. It includes all kinds of different materials. I'm sure your listeners, viewers are familiar with all of that. And so the question is, what does the Bible tell us about women and women's religious behaviors, women's belief systems, and so forth? And it definitely does include some information about that. But for the most part, the Bible is centered on the male experience of religion. It focuses on the temple in Jerusalem. It focuses on what the kings did, what the priests thought the king should be doing or shouldn't be doing, and so forth. So archaeology provides us with an alternative, which is not curated. Whatever is left in the ground, there it is. And so you would think that looking at archaeology, we'd have great opportunities to discover women. But that hasn't been the case until recently, because not only is the Bible a male-oriented, let's say androcentric document, but the whole field of biblical archaeology has been a male-oriented field from its foundings in mid-19th century until quite recently. And often the questions have been about kings. Where did a king rule from? What did his palace look like? What did his gateway look like? What was elite housing like? How can we document biblical history according to archaeological finds? Women were not necessarily part of that elite discussion in ways that we can identify. Women were are more available in domestic settings, and so it wasn't until archaeologists began, and here not until, I don't know, this century really, began to really worry about domestic setting, how can we find everyday life, daily life, and then with daily life, of course, the lives of women, that we began to talk about women's lives, and with that, of course, women's ritual practices and religious practices.
Hmm. Very interesting. And I know that you have some work where you emphasize the role of women archaeologists in this story, in creating, such as yourself, in creating a new understanding or complementing, filling out the picture and therefore changing our view of the society of ancient Israel and Judah. Have I got that right?
It's definitely the case. I would say, of course, that not every woman is interested in ancient women. And of course, some men are interested in ancient women. But the first and foremost efforts to uncover women's lives, whether in the Bible or through archaeology, were efforts that were undertaken by women. And it really has taken a lot of work. It's been a long struggle, in a way, for the lives of women to be given the same professional value as the lives of men. And so it's taken a long time for the subject of ancient women not to be considered marginal as opposed to the subject of ancient men or ancient men's accomplishments and so forth. So this is a discussion that's ongoing, but certainly women have led the charge on this one.